the cult. Hydra cult. That's what I called it in my last video. I want to go into some emails that I've received from lots of people that were somewhat connected to the players. They gave me a lot of information over the last year. People were just flabbergasted, I guess, at that point, and their worst fears had come true, that these children were murdered. It became more and more clear that Tammy and Charles were also murdered. The Daybells, the newest Daybell wife, had a plan. And that plan did not include Tylee Ryan or JJ Vallow, Charles Vallow, or Tammy Daybell. I'm going to talk about all that right now, so stick around. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing to my channel. I've got a lot of information that I want to share with you without throwing anyone under the bus or revealing my sources. Thank you to all my sources and the people that have trusted me enough with this information. I hope I do it justice. Welcome to Left Undone, Incomplete Investigations. I'm Kathryn. Hi, and welcome back. I want to talk about some of the inside details that I've been privy to over the last year that has to do with this Hydra cult, the people involved, and the people that know people that were involved were able to share a lot of information. In the last video, and if you haven't seen it, I'll link it right here. Go back and watch this video. It has the backstory, the story behind the story that sort of brings it all together, lets you know the ideology of what these people were planning, thinking, and who the players were, and where they got their ideology from. They sort of ran with it, right? Put it all together and made this Chad cult. Chad and friends, Chad and buddies, Chad and everybody, Chad and Lori. One person had emailed me and told me about some conversations that they had with Melanie Gibb when she was pretty deeply involved in all this, before the children went missing, before anything terrible had happened. According to this source, Melanie was talking about white camps often. She was talking about a role in these camps, and the camps were to be across the White Mountains of Arizona. People that spoke that weren't really involved with these ideologies were getting pretty concerned about Melanie, people that knew her. The people in her group, her Lori group, they did speak many times of who went dark. It meant, as it was explained, that their spirits were no longer in their bodies. That's where the word zombie came from. I think they made the word up because once the spirits were out, they are zombies. I guess, kind of works like that on the zombie television fiction shows. Lori said this to Charles, and Charles repeated this to law enforcement, who didn't help him one little iota. He said, I was told by my wife that I'm not Charles anymore, I'm Nick Schneider. And she said that she can have me done in or whatever, and the cop was pretty condescending and not very nice about it. But this was also going on before, and at the same time that Charles was concerned, Melanie Gibb's friends were concerned that she was having these same conversations about people going dark, dark spirits, zombies, and that once their real spirit was gone, an evil spirit would take over their bodies. And those were the zombies that needed to be getting rid of. And with that information, to them, it was a no-brainer. Their spirit's gone, bad spirits are in their body, no-brainer. Send them off to their next probation. Because when you kill the possessed body, then it releases the real spirit back into whatever land they go to, and they can come back into their new probation and be happy again. So that would be their reincarnation, mortal probation, however they want to word all this. Once that zombie is released, dead, the happy spirit can move on into the universe and come back and have their multiple mortal probation. Melanie did tell people that Tylee went dark first. Once Tylee went dark, Tylee was gone. Poof, no more Tylee. According to this particular source, Melanie did go speak to Lori and say, Tylee went dark and she's gone. Where is she? What happened to her? And according to this hearsay, but it's what was emailed to me and told to me, so we're going to talk about it, Lori wouldn't give Melanie Gibb a good response. Her responses were vague, unclear, but Melanie did fear that what had happened was what they had talked about, how the zombies have to be murdered in order to release the spirit of the real person. So why would Tylee go dark? Why Tylee? Lori and Chad didn't want Lori's kids in the way of their mission. Their mission was to lead the 144,000, like we said before, the king and queen. So why would they label Tylee as dark? She was in the way. Clearly, in the way. How disgusting and terrible is that? My source was really concerned that this group of people could actually become terrorists of sorts. Another friend had mentioned to me that Melanie Gibb had gotten her tickets to Preparing to People conference. It was in Mesa, Arizona, and this particular friend said she saw some concerning things there. It was creepy. She also felt that Melanie's involvement was actually pretty concerning. She felt like Melanie was very thick into this group, these people, this cult. Soon after that, Melanie started doing the podcast with Jason Mao and Lori. One of Melanie's friends that had emailed me said she felt like Lori was taking all the airspace. And she actually mentioned that to Melanie. She said to Melanie, I listened to your podcast and Lori's taking up a lot of the airspace. You're not saying much. And Melanie actually defended that and said, it's okay. Lori and I are like sisters. It's fine. Whatever Lori wanted was perfectly fine with Melanie. It sounds like Melanie was very enamored and very connected to Lori, like sisters, their beliefs. And remember what she said? That when Lori took you in, she stuck to you like Velcro. Lori's very good, very manipulative. Lori will do fine in prison, in my opinion, because she's going to be that person. She's going to be that charismatic person in prison. She's going to be okay in there. Chad, on the other hand, he's not a big, strong guy. He's dorky and doofus, and I'm pretty sure he's going to have a really hard time with Big Bubba. Lori will probably be okay with Big Bertha, but I personally don't think that Chad will be very good with Big Bubba. So another acquaintance of Melanie Gibb saw her at a funeral in early 2019. They spoke for about an hour. Her and her husband and other people were speaking to Melanie. Melanie said to them, I'm being translated, there's heat coming out of my body. And she actually took this woman's hand and put it up to her forehead. And this woman said, her head was hot. It was creepy. It was really hot. During that conversation where they talked, Melanie talked about portal travel. She talked about multiple probations. The people that she was telling this to were kind of like, okay, I don't want anything to do with this creepy stuff. This is weird. This is not okay. I'm getting really concerned about these people. I'm getting concerned about what their belief is. It's very strange. Once the kids were missing and everything was going on, Melanie Gibb did express to one of her other friends that she would be willing to talk to the media, but she wouldn't do it until Chad and Lori were actually in jail. So as you know, once they were in jail, she did come forward and she met with Nate Eaton and they had the big Melanie Gibb interview. After the kids went missing in December of 2019, one of Melanie Gibb's friends said that she spoke with Melanie. She said, I'm telling as much as I can to as many people because I need the truth to get out. Before this, before she started talking to all of her friends and trying to get the story out, her boyfriend, David Warwick, had said soon after Tammy died, he pointed out that this is weird and this is not normal and this is bad. He actually, from what I'm being told, convinced her to look at what she was actually getting sucked into and believing. Now, I just want to remind everyone and put out this disclaimer that I in no way believe that mainstream LDS family members, families, people are involved in any of this. In fact, the friends, the people that have sent me information are mainstream LDS. And this to them was not good. This was all very scary stuff that they didn't believe in. And they felt that people like Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, Melanie Gibb, Christopher Parrott, Hector Sosa, etc., were on a slippery slope and something really bad was brewing. At that point, when everybody was looking for these children and Melanie was talked to about what the heck she's believing by David, her friends were convinced that Melanie had gotten away from this ideology and this cult and that she really needed to be deprogrammed to really get fully away from it. One of her friends that had emailed me said, I do believe she's out of the cult, but maybe not out of the woods yet. There's a lot of concerns. A lot of people still have a lot of concerns. Is Melanie Gibb the star witness? Did Melanie Gibb know exactly what happened? How much did Melanie share with law enforcement? She hasn't been arrested. She is currently the big witness. She was at the preliminary hearing for Chad. So, you know, I don't think any of us will know for sure until there's a trial or until there's more arrests and we see who gets arrested. Because remember, you know, in the documents where Chad and Lori are being charged with murder, there is documentation in there that says co-conspirators, both and unknown. I'm really curious to see who are known. I have a big fat feeling that Melanie Pulowski is probably one of them. And I do know that obviously Melanie Gibb knew what the belief system was, and with that belief system, what could happen. Did she know it did happen? We won't know. I know there's a phone call flying around out there right now. We'll see. Until I hear that in context, I can't make a decision. Because when you take things out of context, they can be misconstrued. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying it is true, but I am a believer of kind of taking a minute, wanting more information. There's a wonderful YouTube channel, and I've spoken of him before, Ben Cardell, and I'll put his link below. He's a deductionist. He's a modern day Sherlock Holmes. And he says over and over and over, context is everything. And I think that really makes a big difference when we're hearing bits and pieces of things, taking something out of context. So we'll see. Back when the original zombie letter was created, people still say that it was Melanie Gibb wrote this. I'm going to tell you exactly how this came down right now. Melanie Gibb, this is from the email I received and how it was explained to me. This contact of Melanie Gibb, she said, now back to the notes you received, the zombie information. Melanie Gibb had spoken to at least 20 of us. So we all have similar notes. She said, I got a call from a friend asking if I had spoken to Melanie Gibb. When I said yes, she told me she had notes she took down. I only had my memory, she says. We were both told similar things and heard things that she didn't hear, and she heard things that I didn't hear, vice versa. She said, email me your notes. She received the notes and put them in a file and added her details to this other person's. That was it. At some point, that was shared with someone else, and that person sent those notes to Left Undone. I read them on my show at the beginning of all of this craziness, and man, it was crazy. The next day, those notes were also leaked to Reddit, and hence people call it the Reddit notes. So either way, they were here and then they were there within a day. Another friend went on, and it was really overwhelming at the time because I was getting a lot of emails. I put my email out there on my channel and people were sending me info and messages, and I was like, I don't even know what a mod is. Like, I don't even know what to do with this stuff. I'm brand new. I'm a brand new YouTuber. I decided to pick a case, and woo, this is the one I picked. So emails were coming to me, and honestly, even today, I'm going back through them, and I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. I had this all this time. Oh my gosh, wow. But it made no sense to me at the time. It made no sense to any of us that aren't inside this cult. I mean, people that aren't familiar with LDS thought it was LDS. People that are LDS thought it was wackadoodle, crazy cult inside, pulling people from LDS into this belief system. You know, it was just a shit show, for real. And so I just kept emails, and I kept reading, and I put out what I understood and what I could, and here we are. I want to get into a little bit about AVOW and what people had told me and about the beliefs going on in there and what was happening in AVOW. I call it AVOW. I hear people calling it AVOW, whatever, AVOW. So in AVOW, Christopher Parrott, like we talked about in the last video, if you haven't seen it, was the guy. This person said, Christopher Parrott and I haven't been on good terms in a long time. This person was a member of AVOW. And she said, Christopher is kind of like a man's man, a club guy. In her words, she said to me, he's demeaning to women, and he has run off many good people. Members of AVOW have said they met wonderful friends through this online community. Lots and lots of good friends, good people, solid, good people. And when he started bashing certain people, you know, these women had become a community themselves. So many of them were like, we're out of here. We're not sticking around on AVOW. This is crap, you know. He's being a jerk, and we're sticking by you. So a lot of them started to just say, we're done, we're out. With Christopher Parrott at that point sticking up so strongly for Chad Daybell, some of these people felt like he was way, way overboard devoted to Chad, and felt that Christopher Parrott, being that devoted to Chad, had to be in on it. There was talk that I had received back then that the FBI did speak to Christopher Parrott and Hector. And there was some warning between the FBI saying that, you know, you may want to lawyer up. That's the last I heard of that. I haven't heard anything else about that as far as where Christopher Parrott is, if he lawyered up, if he's been questioned. I don't know. Another person said when they were talking to me about AVOW, they said there was an active thread on AVOW that told people how to use their cell phone. Now, this is important because think about Lori and Chad and why Alex's phone was tracked. We don't know about Lori's and Chad's. But there was an active thread on AVOW at that time that showed how to use your cell phones and not be reached. And everything you write can be deleted after you write it, so it cannot be traced. The person that told me that was like, why would anybody need to be writing things that need to be deleted unless they had something pretty incriminating to hide? And we know that Lori and Chad clearly had a lot of incriminating things to hide. And if there's people connected to them, like it appears, they probably did too. Now, you know, Christopher may just be like Mr. Bigwig and not involved, but he did surround himself with very questionable people. Cresha K. Easton posted a radio interview this week, and I'll link it below, of Hector Sosa. Hector Sosa tells his story of his visions from the time he was 10 years old, when he was a Catholic, when he moved from Puerto Rico to the United States, to Utah, to having this, becoming an LDS member, and then vision after vision and becoming this guy, this big guy. Where eventually he knows Julie Rowe knows Chad, Chad's publishing Julie Rowe's book, and Chad shows up at Hector's door and says, "I'm Chad Daybell, and I'm here to tell you that I want to publish your book." Oh my God, a publisher showed up at my door. What? I'm just so mad. These people are just so conceited and full of themselves, and worse, to the point where they can actually murder people. It's just disgusting. Now, according to the people on AVOW, Hector, and we've heard this before, he talks about himself as if he's a huge hacker, that he can get into people's computers, that he allegedly threatens but stays just under the radar. I don't know. I'm not a member of AVOW. I know some people had joined it. I think Nora Jasmine had joined AVOW and talked about it. I didn't. And I'm sure she or anyone else that joined to get more information found out some interesting things there. Now we know Julie Rowe had all kinds of things to say, right? And again, if you go back to my last video, all these people are brought up in my video about this belief system. So we're just kind of pulling it all together in here to kind of give you a deeper look at the thought process and what these people were thinking and doing. But Julie Rowe, you know, from the get-go, Chad's always been a good friend. I've seen Chad in visions. I met him in person in July of 2014. Julie Rowe says she saw that Tammy sometime in the future would be passing to the other side. She never mentioned it to Chad. Then Chad came to her later and said he knew his wife was going to pass. And Chad was grieving. I cried. He cried. You know, Julie Rowe with the whole blah, 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 blah. Julie Rowe had gone on and said, you know, when asked, are Chad and Lori innocent? She said, I know for a fact that Chad and Lori are innocent. I know him. She saw Lori, or somebody saw Lori in a vision. I don't know. That was weird because they all their visions are kind of like mumble jumble in my brain because we know they're not true. I'm sorry. They're not true. These people are not visionaries. So this is all fiction. And then Joy's like, I'm a friend to Chad. I consider him a friend. He considers me a friend. And then she went on to say, I want to know where all Chad's friends are. They're all cowards. Because everybody's kind of like, oh crap. This is my view of it. Everybody's kind of like, oh crap. And then Julie Rowe's out there going, oh, I want to be on an interview. Pick me. Because, you know, Julie Rowe's about Julie Rowe, and she knows this will help promote herself in one way, shape, or form, good, bad, or ugly. Julie Rowe wants to be on the limelight, right? I mean, she writes books. She does big shows that cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and combined for people to come and see her. She makes a lot of money on it, and she's, you know, she's Julie Rowe. I was asked to Julie Rowe, do you see the kids? Are they okay? She says, yes, they're happy, they're okay, they're in a beautiful place, they're sleeping in beds. Yeah. We know all this was lies. Julie Rowe had said, you know, I scanned Chad's energy and his heart was broken when Tammy died. And then Julie Rowe's like, yeah, my angels told me, my angels told me that Tammy was going to go. Julie went on in interviews to say Lori was an abused woman. And now that we know everything and we've seen Charles and all this, another line of baloney. Lori was not an abused woman. Lori is someone that likes to play victim. And then, eventually she says, Chad brainwashed his children. She then said she received a warning about Lori. She changes her narrative completely. The plan can't move forward. Never too late to come forward and tell the truth. No one has clean hands in all this. She flipped completely. This came out of her mouth. You can go watch Julie Rowe and you can see it. She flipped completely. She goes on and she says, Chad lied about Tammy's death on the Prepper website, AVOW. So there's so much contradictions. I actually did an entire Julie Rowe video on all of Julie's contradictions, and there's a lot. And one thing that Julie did say, she said, I now consider Chad an enemy. Julie is very subtle when she changes her story. She's sly, and she changes her story based on what's going on at the moment. She has a very good memory, and she knows how to gradually alter and change the story. It's all out there in her own words. You can see it, study her enough if you want to. I consider her completely irrelevant, but she's relevant to this brainwashing process because she's very verbal about her beliefs, which are not, she's someone that was excommunicated for the LDS Church. Her belief system goes against the things they believe. They don't believe in multiple mortal privations and, all this stuff that Julie Rowe just claims that she has. But yet, people pay money to go see her. People buy her books. If you go read the comments, people are sucked in. Scary, scary stuff to follow false prophets. You are not just dealing with this world, you are dealing with God when you're following a false prophet. Another person that is connected to AVOW had told me that they had gotten banned from the GRI section. In that section, people have to pay an extra $5 a month. And she referred to it as Christopher's Little Corner and called it the Jonestown GRI. So obviously she was picking up on some cultish behaviors going on in there and the discussion. She said there was a gentleman that was able to get someone else's password, and this person had a lot of people that could work with him, and they went into AVOW and they got tons and tons and tons of screenshots and started posting them all over the internet, on the sly. However, when they were doing that, one of the screenshots didn't get cropped right, and the person that had shared their password got banned for life out of AVOW because it showed up. I guess there was a shout box, and anybody that put anything even slightly controversial in the shout box got kicked out of AVOW. Obviously, this group, this AVOW, you couldn't go against their thoughts, their ideology, their ways of looking at things, or you were smashed like a bug and kicked out. So people started leaving AVOW when all this craziness was going on, right? They were leaving. Christopher didn't know that they left until their membership ran out, because you can't just cancel. You have to cancel at the end of your membership. So I think what they do is they pay for a certain period of time. Once that period of time is over, then their membership is canceled because they didn't renew. So he didn't really know who was dropping off until at that point. Another person that followed AVOW followed Chad and Hector really carefully, paid attention to a lot of things that they had been saying along the way. Listened to them, read their works, all that, and Julie Rowe. And Hector said there was going to be a volcano that was going to go off. And he gave the 2-day warning, and guess what? No volcano. Julie Rowe said there was going to be a big earthquake in Salt Lake City, or the Wasatch, W-A-S-A-T-C-H front. Never happened. Chad believed that Charles Vallow was going to die in a car crash. Chad believed that Tammy was going to die in a car crash. And they also believed that the beginning of the tribulation or the end of times or whatever you want to call it, normal civilization would take place at the end of 2019 and before 2020. Well, today's Saturday, May 29th, 2021. Still here. And they felt that since that was going to happen, all wrongdoings would be thrown under the rug. And they felt that all of this was for the greater good. All of this mess. Not one of these visionaries tied to this group, cult, not one of their claims have come true. Not one. This person says Chad was actually pretty convincing when they listened to him speak, which blows me away. Oh, sweet Melanie. And this person was like, oh my gosh, thank God my home is considered inside this safe zone, because Chad was telling people where to live, where was going to be safe. He went to Rexburg. So from what I understand, Rexburg was safe. People were to move in that area if they wanted to be safe, the safe zone. As all this came about, with AVOW was running strong, people were leaving. A lot of the people that have emailed me said they were just there for the prepper stuff, but kind of some of them got sucked into this. One of the members that emailed me, that was a member of AVOW, she said, how do you get so much garbage that's been put in your brain out of your brain? She said, I even thought for a moment, oh, I'm glad my house is in the safe zone. And then she thought, wait, no, that was all crap. She says, looking back on all the stuff that was talked about and all this, it looks like witchcraft to her. She reflected on, why would I have started to get sucked into this ideology? Why did I almost become one of those people? She said, she's like, maybe I thought being mainstream LDS was just too boring, or maybe it was doom porn. She said, maybe I got addicted to the rush of believing we could weather any storm thrown at us. She said Melanie Gibb had referred to it as prepper pride. This other person said, you know, I'm not leaving my religion over this. I will not be an LDS member. She says, but I need to be sure that I detox completely from this ideology. I want anything that's not core beliefs out of my brain, and I need to work on me. Before the children's bodies were found, she said one thing that was going on in AVOW was 80% of the female members were defending Chad and Lori's decision to not share the whereabouts of the kids. People were flat out saying it's up to them. They don't need to share the whereabouts of the children. Looking back, they were dead. And people were defending them. She said that it was so much anti-government, anti-law conversation going on in there. She said it was just running amok. It was just nuts. And she flat out says, yes, this is a cult, and this cult thinks they are above the law. So back then, Christopher was convinced the kids are fine, or so he said. And Melanie Gibb was, they're not fine, because she was aware of what the belief system was, and poof, the kids were gone. So she was like, I think this actually happened to the kids. She was very much afraid that the outcome was what the outcome wound up to be. She came to the conclusion that she's pretty sure that there was no end of times all of a sudden going to be happening according to Lori and Chad's timeline, and that she was coming to the conclusion that these children were dead as well before these bodies were ever found. And she said, you know, sometimes when things didn't happen that they would, people in the group or these people that thought they had these visions would say, they'd say, well, the dates can be off a little bit. There was always kind of a little bit of like, oh, well, wait, you know, it didn't happen that day, but I might have been off just a little bit. Well, yeah, you're off a lot because you're full of baloney, right? She was given some information about this cult, and she said Chad and Lori would go into private settings and homes after these PAP conferences. So they'd have the Preparing a People conference, and then they would go into private homes and have these meetings, and they would teach all sorts of false doctrines. And then they would back it up with scripture. She said they are master manipulators. She definitely felt like this was very cultish. And she said they were in these private gatherings before Tammy ever died. And she went into the fact that when they're in these meetings with these special people that are in their cult, they talk about opening up portals and closets. They talk about multiple probations, up to 9, and they are sealed to different people in each probation. And then in the final judgment, the woman gets to pick who she's with for all eternity. They talk about the energy healing, dark and light energy. They have the gift that, including reading the prophets and apostles, there was an understanding through this group that leaked out that Chad does have names and numbers. And we know this did come out into mainstream media. And he has names and numbers of the people he was, people that other people were. Chad and Lori were in charge of the 144,000. And she flat out said, just like Brandon Boudreaux had said, so many families are being broken up over this. She's pretty sure Mike Stroud is part of this, part of gathering the 144,000 because of conversations she's had with people that are in his stake. Anybody have any more information out there that wants to share this? Now's the time. Send it to me, Kathryn at leftundone.com. There's a dash between left and undone. So I can keep going with this if you have more. I still have more. I'm going to wrap it up here pretty soon because this is getting long. Then again, Lori doesn't need to wear garments because she's translated. And once you're translated, you don't need to wear the garments anymore. And they said, if you get excommunicated from the LDS church, well, that's part of your life plan. So, it's okay. One of the things that they believe in, that they talked about in these meetings, is sacrifice. Sacrifice what? Humans? Children? Wives? Husbands? And she says, they were talking about using the temple, the Holy Temple, the LDS Holy Temple, for things to further their agenda. And she believes this definitely wasn't God's work. And again, Moroni sealing them as a couple before Tammy and Charles died. She really wanted to just end it there. She didn't want to share too much more at that time. These emails are very old. They're last year, before the kids were found. This is the information that was being shared with me. She said, oh no, a lot of people will be really upset with me for sharing this. She says, and I get that. But she said there are others that need some clarification to quiet their troubled minds about this. And she said, I think there might even be others that have been part of these private meetings with them. And she says that they really need to see their bishop and get some counseling on all of that belief system, get deprogrammed, understand the difference. And she just felt like this is just all so dark and ugly. A lot of the puzzle pieces, now that we know we've got the murder charges against Lori and Chad, and they're related to their religious belief system, and there's co-conspirators, both known and unknown, and all this information and these groups and taking people's money and believing they're in charge. There's no denying that this is a cult. We know a lot of the players. We know the ideology. We know people that got wise from what was going on when they realized these kids were missing. We know that some of them that really, really have felt this and were dragged in woke up enough to talk to law enforcement. And we should be very grateful for that. There's others that should come forward and tell. I mean, at this point, what are they covering for? Melanie Pulowski, I would say, is one of the big ones. All right, well, thank you for watching Left Undone, Incomplete Investigations. We will continue with this with part 3 very soon. Thank you. Stay safe, stay well, and if you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel here at Left Undone, and if nothing else, hit the thumbs up, please. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.